In a small, tranquil town in Texas, life was as peaceful as it could be. Mark, a devoted family man, had recently added a new member to his household, a charming golden retriever puppy named Leo. The whole family quickly fell in love with the playful and affectionate dog, who filled their days with joy and laughter. But there was one thing that started to concern Mark: Leo's unusual behavior every morning when the garbage truck rolled through the neighborhood. Every time the truck approached, Leo would rush to the front yard, barking excitedly and wagging his tail with uncontainable energy. At first, Mark thought it was just typical dog behavior. Leo was probably just excited to see new people. But as days turned into weeks, Mark began to notice a pattern. Leo wasn't just excited. He seemed particularly fixated on the garbage man, and the garbage man, in turn, seemed unusually interested in Leo. Curiosity got the better of Mark, and soon, concern began to creep into his thoughts. Why was Leo so drawn to this man? And why did the garbage collector seem to pay extra attention to his dog? Mark's mind raced with possibilities, some of them unsettling. What if the stranger had ill intentions toward Leo? To put his mind at ease, Mark decided to set up a security camera, hoping to uncover the truth behind these daily interactions. The next morning, with a mix of anxiety and anticipation, Mark left for work, knowing that the camera would capture whatever transpired while he was away. Throughout the day, his thoughts kept drifting back to Leo and the mysterious garbage man. What was really going on? That evening, as Mark reviewed the footage on his way home, his heart pounded in his chest. The video showed the garbage truck pulling up to the house as usual. Leo, as expected, ran out to greet it, his tail wagging furiously. The garbage man stepped down from his truck and approached Leo, but the camera's resolution was too low to clearly capture what happened next. Mark's anxiety spiked. He feared the worst. Determined to get a clearer picture, Mark adjusted the camera settings, enhancing the images to reveal what had been obscured. As the enhanced footage played back, Mark finally saw the truth. The garbage man wasn't harming Leo at all. In fact, quite the opposite was true. The man pulled out a small bag of dog treats from his pocket, and Leo, thrilled with excitement, jumped up and down around him. The two shared a few moments of pure, innocent joy as the garbage man fed Leo the treats and petted him lovingly. It was clear that this had become a daily ritual, a secret bond between the man and the dog that neither Mark nor his family had known about. Relief washed over Mark, followed by a deep sense of gratitude. His fears had been entirely unfounded. The garbage man, who had been a complete stranger, turned out to be a kind-hearted animal lover who had gone out of his way to brighten Leo's mornings. Mark couldn't help but feel moved by the simplicity and beauty of the moment, a reminder that sometimes, the most unexpected connections can bring light into our lives. From that day on, Mark made sure to greet the garbage man with a smile and a wave, knowing that this once unknown figure was not just a service provider, but a quiet, caring friend to his beloved Leo. As days passed, Mark found himself looking forward to the mornings, eager to witness the interaction between Leo and the garbage man. It became a comforting routine, a small but meaningful moment in his otherwise busy life. Every morning, Mark would watch from the window, smiling as Leo bounded out to greet the garbage truck, tail wagging furiously, his excitement palpable. One day, Mark decided to take things a step further. He wanted to properly thank the garbage man for the kindness he'd shown Leo, a kindness that had not only eased Mark's worries, but also brought joy to his dog's life. So, he planned a small gesture of appreciation. On a crisp morning, as the familiar sound of the garbage truck approached, Mark stepped outside, holding a warm cup of coffee and a small envelope. Leo, of course, was already waiting eagerly by the curb, his eyes fixed on the approaching truck. When the garbage man stepped down, Mark walked over with Leo at his side. "Good morning," Mark greeted, extending the coffee. The garbage man, taken aback, smiled warmly. "Morning. Is this for me?" he asked, surprised. "Yes, it is," Mark replied. "And I also wanted to give you this," he added, handing over the envelope. The garbage man looked at the envelope, then back at Mark, a bit puzzled. "What's this for?" he asked, his tone humble. "It's just a small token of appreciation," Mark said. "I've noticed how much you care for Leo, and I wanted to thank you for taking the time to make his morning special. It means a lot to us." The garbage man's eyes softened as he opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten note from Mark, expressing his gratitude, along with a gift card to a local cafe. The gesture was simple, but it conveyed the heartfelt thanks that Mark had wanted to express. "You didn't have to do this," the garbage man said, clearly moved. "I just love dogs, and Leo is such a sweet boy. It's a pleasure to see him every morning." Mark smiled. "It's the least I could do. You've brought a lot of joy into our lives, especially Leo single quotes s double quotes dot dot as they talked. Leo sat patiently by the garbage man's feet, his head tilted up, eyes full of affection. The man reached down to pet him, and Leo leaned into the touch, his tail wagging slowly, contentedly. From that day on, their brief morning meetings turned into short, friendly conversations. Mark learned that the garbage man's name was Tim, and that he had a dog of his own at home, a black Labrador named Max. They talked about their dogs, the challenges of work, and the small pleasures of life. It was a simple connection, but it added warmth to Mark's daily routine. Over time, Tim's visits became more than just routine stops on his route. They became moments of human connection, a reminder of the kindness that exists in the world. And for Leo, those few minutes with Tim remained the highlight of his day, a cherished ritual filled with treats, pets, and love. Mark reflected on how a simple act of concern for his dog had led to a new friendship, one built on mutual respect and a shared love for animals. He realized that sometimes, the most meaningful connections come from the most unexpected places. In this case, it came from a man who took a moment out of his busy day to make a dog's life a little brighter, and in doing so, made a difference in the lives of the entire family. As the seasons changed and the years went by, the bond between Leo and Tim grew stronger. Even as Leo grew older and slowed down, his excitement at the sound of the garbage truck never waned. And Mark, watching from the window, continued to be grateful for the unexpected friendship that had blossomed from a simple act of kindness. In the quiet town in Texas, life continued as usual, but for Mark, Leo, and Tim, those morning encounters had become a reminder that in a world filled with uncertainties, the small, unexpected connections we make can often be the most meaningful. As time passed, the connection between Tim, the garbage collector, and Mark's family deepened. Mark began to notice other small acts of kindness from Tim. Sometimes, it was just a friendly wave to the neighbors. Other times, it was helping an elderly resident carry their trash cans back to the house. Tim seemed to have a genuine care for the community, and slowly, more people in the neighborhood started to notice and appreciate him. One particularly chilly winter morning, the town was hit with an unexpected snowstorm. The roads were slick, and many people were staying indoors, huddled up to keep warm. Mark was concerned about Leo. Although the dog loved playing in the snow, Mark didn't want him outside for too long in such cold weather. But as the familiar sound of the garbage truck echoed through the snow-covered streets, Leo couldn't contain his excitement. He ran to the door, his paws slipping on the hardwood floor in his eagerness to greet Tim. Mark bundled up in his coat, scarf, and gloves, and opened the door, letting Leo out to the curb. He expected their usual routine: a quick visit, a few treats, and then back inside to warmth. But when Tim stepped out of the truck, Mark noticed something different. Instead of his usual uniform, Tim was wearing a heavy coat and a woolen hat, but he also had a large thermos and an extra pair of gloves in his hands. "Morning, Mark," Tim called out, his breath visible in the frosty air. "Thought I'd come prepared today. It's a cold one." "Morning, Tim. It sure is. I wasn't sure if you'd be out today with this weather," Mark replied, watching as Leo happily ran circles around Tim, his fur dusted with snow. "Can't miss my rounds," Tim said with a grin. He poured some steaming hot chocolate from the thermos into a small cup and handed it to Mark. "Figured you might need this while you're out here. And I've got some treats for Leo too." Mark accepted the cup, the warmth seeping through his gloves, and took a sip. It was delicious, rich, sweet, and exactly what he needed to chase away the winter chill. "Thanks, Tim. This is perfect." Tim crouched down to give Leo his treats, taking his time to make sure the dog got his fill. He scratched Leo behind the ears, and Mark could see how much this moment meant to both of them. Even in the cold, their bond remained strong. As Tim stood up, he glanced at the snow-covered sidewalks and driveways around them. "Looks like the storm caught everyone by surprise," he said. "I've got a shovel in the truck. Thought I might help clear some of the paths while I'm here." Mark was taken aback by Tim's offer. "That's really kind of you, Tim, but you don't have to do that. You've already got a tough job, especially in this weather." Tim waved off the concern. "It's no trouble at all. I don't mind lending a hand. Besides, I know how tricky it can be for some folks to get around in this kind of snow." Mark was touched by Tim's generosity. "Well, if you're sure, I could use some help clearing the driveway. I was going to do it later, but with your help, it'll go much faster." The two men spent the next half-hour shoveling snow, clearing not just Mark's driveway, but also the sidewalks of a few elderly neighbors who couldn't do it themselves. Leo, of course, stayed close by, bounding through the snowdrifts and occasionally trying to catch the falling flakes in his mouth. When they were done, Mark offered Tim a heartfelt thanks. "I really appreciate this, Tim. You've done so much for us, more than just collecting trash. You've become a real part of this neighborhood." Tim smiled, a little embarrassed by the praise. "I'm just doing what I can. It's nice to be able to help out and make some friends along the way. And Leo here, well, he's made my job a lot more enjoyable. As they stood there, catching their breath in the cold, Mark had an idea. "You know, Tim, why don't you come over for dinner sometime? My wife and I would love to have you, and I'm sure Leo would be thrilled to see you outside of work hours." Tim's eyes brightened at the invitation. "That sounds great, Mark. I'd love to." They set a date, and as Tim climbed back into his truck to continue his rounds, Mark felt a deep sense of satisfaction. What had started as a simple curiosity about his dog's behavior had blossomed into a meaningful friendship, one that enriched not just his family's life, but the entire community. The dinner that followed was a warm, lively affair. Tim fit right in with Mark's family, sharing stories about his life and his love for animals. They learned that he had grown up in a nearby town and had always had a special connection with dogs, having rescued a few strays over the years. Leo, of course, was over the moon to have his friend there, and the evening was filled with laughter and good food. As the evening drew to a close, Mark realized how much richer his life had become thanks to this unexpected friendship. He knew that Tim's kindness and the bond he shared with Leo had brought something special into their home, something that would last long beyond the snow and the cold of winter. And so, in that quiet little town in Texas, as the seasons changed from winter to spring, the friendship between a family, a dog, and a garbage collector grew stronger with each passing day. It was a testament to the power of kindness, the unexpected bonds that can form between strangers, and the simple, yet profound, ways in which we can touch each other's lives.